Oh, hey, what are you doing there? Let's see who's in the chat. Welcome. Yeah, I guess I wasn't expecting to do a live stream today, but I see a lot of people are waiting for some sort of class. I think I can make that work. I've got a board right here, and I have a lesson plan. Huh, that's convenient. Let's see who's in the chat right now. Let's see who's waiting. Cosma. Looks like Cosmo was first. Kai. Seeing who else I recognize. Emily. Lady Natbug. Flo. Jajongsby. Seen you before. James. Looking really quickly through the chat. Sue Amazing. Keith. Hey, Keith. Welcome, everyone. Funny running into you here, Kai says, yes. Those of you who are new, I see several names I don't recognize. Brian, I recognize you, but I was saying besides that, I see several people I don't recognize. Where is everyone watching from? If you already come here every time, feel free to say it anyway, but especially for those of you who are brand new, if this is your first time coming to one of my lives, let me know where you're watching from. I'm curious. Where is everyone right now? Keith says, what a joyful coincidence we all being here. Yes, it is. I don't know. I was just like walking around my room wearing these clothes like I do every day. I see my cameras turned on, the lights are on and everything. I figure might as well teach a class. See, we got first person answer says America. We got Bigu. We also have Hungary, Colombia, Jamaica, Serbia, India, San Diego, California, nice. Utah, India, says Akshita. Nice. You have to scream it. That's American English speakers don't really know this, but the official pronunciation of India is you have to scream the last vowel. That's how they do it in the country. Germany, welcome. Hungary, Northeast US. Where in the Northeast US? It could be like a lot of places. New York, Maine. Keith says, in my den with a question mark. You're not sure? Did you just like wake up? You're like, I think I'm in my den. Singapore. Nai Rijira? Nai Rijira? Where is that? Indonesia. Kai says, it's a good thing you also happen to be a Korean teacher. Really works out well for us who randomly were waiting on the lives. Yeah, I mean, this isn't normally, I don't normally do live streams, but it does so happen that I'm a Korean teacher. So I guess this works out kind of good for both of us. Sambaguk, Brazil, nice. Massachusetts, Washington, D.C., but live in Hungary. Interesting. Another person from India, or as they say, India, in the, in the country, that's what you call it. When the foreigners aren't around, that's what you probably call it. Slobo Guitar, welcome, new member. I felt it was awkwardly personal. Oman, here in Tejas? Where is that? Nigeria. Kai says, I'm chained in Adobe's basement until I get Billy to sign his life away. I mean, until you get me to become an Adobe ambassador. I'm not against I'm not against helping to promote Adobe's wonderful line of products that are all fairly priced and not at all anti-competitive. The thing is, I don't have Adobe products. I don't use a single one. The last one I was using was Adobe Photoshop Elements version 1, which I had since, I believe, 2003 or 2002 or something like around then. I got it. And I stopped using that several years ago. I switched to Affinity. I would happily be an Affinity shill, but they don't have paid influencers. So, oh well, what are you going to do? But yeah, I mean, I just don't have any Adobe products to talk about them. So I'm starting to think Kai might actually work for Adobe. I'm scared. I'm actually kind of getting scared that maybe Kai does. Music is asking, any Ecuadorians here? I don't know. I think I've seen some people say before they're watching from Ecuador, but I don't think there are any of them right now. Assam, Sweden, Assam. You're like, no, Assam. And you say it again. We get it. We get it, Ruja. We get it. I know. You can stop. Please. Porcelain says, truly what a coincidence you're here. Surely you know a thing or two about Korean. I just so happen to know a couple of Korean words. One of the bartender the other night, I think they were Korean. I think he taught me a few cool words. He told me like, I think he said it was like Dangshinen Pabuya or something like that. And he said it's like a nice pickup line I can use the next time I'm trying to meet someone. So I'll try that. And then he told me a couple other things I can't remember, but then his Korean friend was like hitting him and telling him to stop. So I guess he's not really supposed to be teaching. Maybe he's not a certified teacher or something. Let's see. Kerala in India. Nice. Music for the Happy Soul says, are there any ADHD people in here? Is anyone not ADHD is probably a better question when it comes to learning languages. A lot of people have undiagnosed ADHD, okay? Texas, welcome. ADHD gang unite, yes. Unite to procrastinate until the next week. Billy, how can I translate ak as in ager sida, age patchida, aginada? Where did you see this? I don't hear these often, so Let's see. Slobo Guitar, welcome. Yoon's like, I have ADHD too. It's not something to brag about. It's not like an issue of pride, okay? It's kind of shameful, but like I don't know. I don't say I do though, because I've never been diagnosed. I never went to a diagnosis, but like, it's possible. I mean, a lot of people have ADHD symptoms. So even if they're not ADHD, they could be somewhere on that ADHD spectrum, right? You know, somewhere between like, I'll procrastinate until the next week and all the way until like, hey, I know I have work due, but here's another episode of a speedrun history on a video game that I've never even played before. That's 3 hours long that I really want to watch before going to bed, even though it's already 9 o'clock. Like, there's a range there, and most people at least are somewhere kind of on that range. So, but yeah, we'll get started with the class. We have a class today. I prepared an actual lesson. It's going to be an intermediate topic, but again, as always, this is going to be very accessible. So even if you're a beginner, you're gonna get something out of today's lesson. I promise you. Also, sad news. I normally buy these caffeinated energy drink packets from the store. I actually got them from Walmart normally. And the reason I got them is because they taste okay. They're like fruit flavored, and they only have a little bit of caffeine, like 60 milligrams. This is not too bad. It's kind of a lot for me, but it's not terrible considering I only have it like once a week for these live streams. Not that I really need the energy anyway, but still helps keep me focused. But they don't sell them anymore. I went there to buy some more because I'm running out. This is actually my second to last one. And they only have like high caffeinated energy drink packets, like starting from 120 up to 240 milligrams, like basically chugging a Red Bull or something. So I don't know what to do. Where am I going to get my weekly caffeine for these live streams if they don't sell those anymore? So maybe I'll just do like, I don't know, caffeine pills or something else. I'll try to find something, because I don't want to drink like soda. Like, I don't want to have like a Pepsi before starting these or something. Gonna get cozy with a hot chocolate. Don't start without me, says Small. Well, I'll wait. I'll wait for you. Don't worry. You got like 15 minutes. Billy, I am officially diagnosed with ADHD though. Lol. Nice. Keith says, is that the Girls' Generation Korean fandom? We are all members of the Girls' Generation Korean fandom, in case you didn't know that. Once you learn your first Korean word, you automatically get registered into their database, and they send you a welcome package. If you didn't get that, you should contact the Korean government or the consulate or wherever, embassy if you're in another country, and demand that. And they might tell you they don't know what you're talking about, but legally you have a right to it. So just keep yelling, and eventually they'll give it to you. 여러분, 한국어를 공부합시다. Yes, Nina. Let's all study Korean. That is a wonderful idea. Akshita says, no offense, but should we start with class? Because tomorrow I have college in the morning after 4 hours. Go to bed. Go to bed. Don't be like, sorry, teacher, I couldn't do the homework. I was watching Billy teach Korean 4 hours before this class. No, go to bed if it's that late. I'm not going to be mad. This live stream will be uploaded after it's done. You just won't get this amazing, supernatural, and totally useful human interaction we've got going here in the chat with me and you. So that's all you're missing. Please don't go. But no, we always start at the very top of the hour. So it's 1:45 in the time that I always start these. I always start them right at 2. So 15 minutes before we'll start. But I promise I always start at the top. At least I always try to, right at the top of the hour. Sometimes I'm like 1 minute late, but we always start right at 2 o'clock. And the lesson shouldn't take too long today. It's actually a complicated topic, but I found a way to simplify it. So it's going to be really fast. I mean, like the lesson parts. So yeah. Chug a Red Bull and do a 16-hour lesson on 안녕하세요. I don't know how long I could teach about 안녕하세요. I probably could stretch it out to a good hour. I bet I could. Like talk about word origins and Hanja and how it's evolved and different versions of it and how you want to, when and where you want to say it, like how Koreans don't do a good morning, good afternoon, good evening like they do in other languages. But 안녕하세요 fills in the role of all of those. Talk about the honorifics for it, how you can, I'm sure I could stretch it out pretty far, but I don't think I could get it to 16 hours. I think the maximum is I could probably do like 30 minutes, no problem. Maybe an hour if I stretch it out. Like lots of examples. For example, you have the first person says 안녕하세요 and the next person says 안녕하세요. And that's a conversation right there. That's going to be at least 5 minutes. Kai says, question. Not sure this makes sense, but for Sino numbers, so like 1, 2, 3, like that, when do you switch from man being the unit you're measuring to something else? I can count all the way up to like 9 million, etc. Then my brain glitches. So you switch from it every 4 digits. So I should say every 4 zeros, you switch to another one. So this will actually, the next set of, I believe this is in the next set of cheat sheets will have this one in it, which is the numbers. And you can go all the way up to 99,999,999 with just using man. You would use 천만 for 10 million. So you can do 9,009만. Now you have 99 of 1,000, 100,000s. But I think it might be easier just to look at the digits. Once you get up to ok, you have 100 million is ok. So from ok, you can go all the way up to, what will that be? 1 trillion, I believe. Yeah. Before you have to go to the next one, which after that would be, we talked about this last week as well, but 초 would be after that. And beyond there, you're never going to need it. But ok will get you pretty much everywhere. Because ok goes all the way up to, 초 goes from 1 trillion all the way up to 15 zeros. So I don't even know what that is. Almost a quadrillion. You're not going to need more than that number for any sort of like purchases. Like when you go to the market, you're not going to need the number for quadrillion when you're buying socks. I mean, unless you buy a lot of socks, but you're probably not going to need that number. So I would say like just focus on getting good at using ok. You're fine with everything in there. There's a reason why you probably are never even going to hear the numbers beyond that unless you're like talking about financials for like the world economy or like science stuff, then you can get higher. Let's see. Just reading all your comments really quick, see if I missed anything. Small says, hot chocolate is made. I am ready. Nice. Do you have a video with Korean slang? Yes, I do. Check out my channel. Do a search for the word slang and you'll find some videos. John says, I'm in Korea. I've been here for almost a year. Whatever Korean I can read now is because of you. Oh, well, thank you. That's great. And I see you say thanks as well. Well, I'm saying thanks back to you for watching my videos. Chris says, my first time being present on your lives. Didn't know about this earlier, but from now on, we'll try to join every live. Nice. Welcome, Chris. A star metrodon has joined the Dino Zoo. What is that? Star metrodon? That sounds like a dinosaur. Sue says we need a 설문조사 with all about 안녕하세요 on it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about 안녕하세요 you probably don't know. There's a lot of lore to the word. Like, why is it always 안녕하세요? Why is it not 안녕하세요? But why is it 안녕하십니까? But never 안녕하십니다. And it's never 안녕합니다 either. It's always a command. Do you ever think about that? 안녕하세요. It's not a question. It's not, are you well? It is, be well. Don't tell me what to do. So it's just kind of an interesting thing because you wouldn't say 안녕합니다, which means I am well. But you could ask it if you ask it, it actually sounds much more polite. Like 안녕하십니까 is a question. Are you doing well? Whereas 안녕하세요 is a command. And the intonation also is done as a command. It's a little interesting thing. Whereas 안녕 can be both. You can do 안녕, kind of 안녕, like hey, hello, how you doing? Or 안녕, like hey, like that. You can do both. Also, you can use it as goodbye. 안녕, goodbye, like that. So Whereas you can't do 안녕하세요 when you're leaving, like to say bye. So there's different usages for all the different versions of 안녕하세요 or 안녕하십니까 or 안녕, like that. See, I could totally stretch this out to an hour. And this is with no preparation. Give me some time to prepare. Give me like a whole week. We can do an hour class all about one word. And then you finish that class and they're going to be like, what did Billy teach you? I learned a word. I learned a word. Don't take me seriously, he says. 안녕해요. There is no 안녕해요. There's a lot of things like that where it has an original verb origin, but there are only certain versions of it that are used. 감사하다, another verb. 죄송하다. These are other ones also that, although they are verbs, you only use them in certain versions. Like you would say 감사합니다. It's not common to do 감사해요, although you could. It's not common. And neither is it to say 감사해. That's really awkward. But if you're doing slang, you say 감사. So it's a more formal version than 고맙다, which is 고맙습니다, 고마워요, 고마워. 고맙다 you can use in any form. 고맙다, very casual. 고마워, also casual. 고마워요, now you're getting to polite. 고맙습니다, very formal, polite. You can do all of them, but 감사하다 you can only use as 감사합니다 for formal and 감사 for slang. There is a 감사해요, but I've only heard it a couple times and it's not used in regular conversation. And I've never heard 감사해. It sounds wrong. So yeah, and there are lots of like common expressions that just sound wrong. And there are reasons for that too. See, that's the second hour of the class is we got to talk about 감사합니다 and 고맙습니다. So that's a whole other hour too. Talk about why. Why is there a 고맙다 version for all of the politeness levels, but there's not for 감사하다? There's a reason for that. Next lesson, next hour. So now we're into the third hour. This is about 미안하다 and 죄송하다. You can say 죄송합니다. 죄송해요 is also kind of okay, but 죄송해 sounds wrong. However, 죄송 is a slang way of saying, oops, sorry, 죄송. You're not going to hear it. It's kind of like a joking, very impolite way of saying it. But 미안합니다. 미안해요. 미안해. 미안. Those are all good. That one's the same reason as you can't have like 고맙다. 고맙다 works for all four, but 감사하다 doesn't because it's from 한자. 감사 is from 한자, and because it's from 한자, it by default has a more formal, a more official, a more fancy sounding feeling to it. Kind of like using a Latin word in English, like saying to select versus to pick, right? I selected something versus I picked it. It has a different feeling by default. So by default, because it has that feeling built in due to it having Hanja roots, it's not going to be used in less than that sort of feeling situations. You're not going to be using it in casual or informal situations. You could use it jokingly as a slang word if you really shorten it, like 죄송 or 감사, like that. On the internet is where you'll see that. Not in speech, but on the internet. But if in speech, you're only going to see that Hanja versions used in more of a polite situation, whereas 고맙다 is pure Korean, as well as 미안하다 is also a pure Korean version. So these ones don't have that fancy feeling, so you can use them in all levels because they don't automatically feel like fancy or formal when you use them. So now we've gotten 3 lessons now, 3 hours of content filled. I planned it out now, and we've learned 3 words, okay? It's going to be an amazing series. Billy's 16-hour series. By the time it's done, you will have learned 16 words. What do you think? What do you think of this class? Should we do it? Kai says, do we have a fun goal set up for today? What should we do for a goal today? Yeah. 미안합니다. 미안해요. 미안해. 미안. All these are good. But 죄송합니다. Okay? 죄송해요. Kind of. It's okay. 죄송해. No. 죄송, it's like only online slang. So you have more limits. That's because 죄송 comes from that Hanja root. So by default, it has more of a formal feeling. What that means is if you're going to apologize to your teacher, 죄송합니다 is much better than 미안합니다. Although if you're younger, you have less expectations of knowing the different feelings so much, so that it's okay as well. 미안합니다. It also sounds polite. But if you really want to be a stickler, you want to be as polite as possible, use the 한자 version. 감사합니다. Verse over 고맙습니다. Although they're both polite, 감사합니다 has more of a strong polite feeling. 죄송합니다 has a much stronger polite feeling than 미안합니다. So if you really want to apologize and it's really important, you're apologizing to your teacher, you're apologizing to your boss, you're apologizing to a stranger, 죄송합니다 is much better than 미안합니다. Although they're both polite, 죄송합니다 has a more formal, like a more serious feel to it. Yes. Is the 감 in 감사 the 느낌 감 one? Yes, it is. In fact, there is a theory that the 감사하다 expression may have come through the Japanese expression kansa, which also then got pushed back into China as like kansha or something. I can't remember the if you speak Chinese, you know what I'm talking about. The reason is because some of these expressions also get combined with 드리다, which means to give thanks. 감사드립니다. Which are more, as well as other expressions, 부탁드립니다. These are other expressions that are kind of inspired by, it seems like they could have been inspired through the Japanese usage of these words into Korean, but they kind of seem a little bit awkward, I guess. They don't quite match the normal style of how you make requests and stuff in Korean. So it's possible they could have come through Japanese and then gotten influenced back that way, but I don't know. It's just, see, we can even talk about that as well. You know, more word origins and stuff this is going to be a really jammed-packed 16-hour course of 16 words. It's going to be so jam-packed that by the time it finishes, you're going to be like, wow, I just wasted 16 hours of my life. But it's going to be really jam-packed. I promise you that. Let's see. Kai listed some donation goals. Let's see. Did you? Pie. Okay, pie is the first one. Cake, retirement, and survival. Okay, I think we need to pick one of these, and I'll make it a donation goal for today. How about $100 today, and I retire? I shut down the channel. I invest the $100 in some meme coin. Pray that the meme coin gets tweeted out by an irresponsible billionaire. That way, I can become a billionaire myself. Sell the $100 of meme coin before it crashes, and then retire. I think that's a good goal. What other options though do we have to do a goal? Because I can actually set stream goals for donations now. I have that feature added in YouTube. What's a good donation goal? And what's like something that you guys want? I mean, I could put eat pie, you know. I could pull in Jeremy, have Jeremy make an appearance. He'll be like, Daddy, I'm trying to use my Switch right now. What are you doing? Like, they paid money for this. Come over here. Billy's getting no donations with the plan. Yeah. Billy Coin. Yeah, Billy Coin. KeyCat Coin sounds great. KeyCat Coin sounds great. The exchange rate for KeyCat Coin. Let's see. I actually had jokingly, I got to start the lesson, but if you get me distracted, I'll tell you, I did actually make a Billy Coin kind of like in a notepad file where I wrote down who owns it several years ago. Okay. For this lesson, if you know honorific verbs, or at least if you know how to make an honorific verb, you're going to be totally fine. Otherwise, you might not know some of the verbs we're going to be using. Oh, and I should say that I fixed my lights finally after like a year. They weren't working, so I finally fixed them. Thank you, Slovo Guitar. I have to check what you donated. Let's see. What's RSD? Serbian dollars? Wow. Oh, sweet. That's like almost $5. Thank you, Slobo. Why is it Slobo Guitar? Do you play the guitar? Do you play guitar? Slobo votes that I release a Billy Coin. I totally will not do a rug pull. I promise. I've set aside 90%, 99% of the coins before I release it that are to me. That's just that's not for a rug pull. That I promise that's just to make sure that the coin is stable. And I solemnly swear not to do a rug pull for the first 3 weeks. Eat the pie, Jeremy. Donation made via PayPal. Okay, hold on. I gotta start the lesson, but Kai's getting me, and Slobo's getting me all distracted. This is not helpful, Kai. This is not helpful at all, Kai. I just have to say that. It's not helpful. I'm getting distracted. I just dropped my tablet. Might need to put the donation goal for a new tablet if I keep dropping this thing. Fortunately, this tablet is actually Jeremy's old kid's tablet. We got it when he was a brand new baby. $20. Thank you, Kai. And Kai wrote a message. Hold on, Kai, I feel bad though because I fixed the board, but your message didn't make the board flash. So let's see if I can fix that. Does it let me? Oh, it shows it's offline. Let me try to see if I can do it this. I got my remote here. Can I? This thing's broken. Somehow it works when people donate, but it doesn't work for the actual control. Okay, just imagine that it blinked 3 times. Thank you, Kai, and Kai wrote a message. Thanks for all that you do. Something Neem, not sure what the goal is for today, so we can earmark this for survival. I think I'm gonna do survival. Okay, let's see here. Let's do how can I make a donation goal? Where's a goal? I don't know why I can't make a goal. How do I set a goal? It doesn't let me do this. Stream settings. Start a poll. Yeah, I don't know. It's not letting me add a goal. I don't know how to do it. Just pretend there's a goal today. $100 goal today. If it reaches $100, then I am going to survive. That's a good goal. I'll survive. Unless there's something better we can do. Okay, we should get started with the class. I vote for Jeremy pie facing Jeremy. I mean Jeremy pie facing Billy. Yeah, I could see him enjoying that. But what about the pie? It's a waste of pie. Okay. I got to get started because we had someone that said they're watching from India and they have to go to work in like 4 hours. So, let's get started. The form we're going to be learning today is Tashi P, and it's very simple to make. You just take an action verb stem, so any action, to eat, to do, whatever, Tashi P, directly on to the end of that stem. So hada becomes ha Tashi P. That's it. What this means is either in the way of that action verb or as that action verb. So, for example, if we're doing the action verb like see, 보다, to look, for example, 보다 is the action verb, so 보 is the stem, that's it, 보다시피, in the way of seeing, or as see, as you see, in the way of seeing, like you see. It just means that. It means in the way of, or as, or like that verb. So this actually has a lot of different uses, but the most basic usage is just as this, Tashi P by itself. Next, we're also going to be looking at using this with other verbs, but first just focus on how you use it with Tashi P with a few specific verbs. This form is commonly used with a few specific verbs. And you can actually just write these down because it's always these same verbs. Actually, let me use a different color. That way it stands out. Actually, I'm going to erase this. I'm going to erase this and I'm going to give you the example verbs that it's used with. Oops, I was writing a stroke order all wrong and it felt weird. Let's see. There are a few others, but this is pretty much it. 보다, to see. 말하다, to say. 듣다, to hear. What is this? 읽다, to read. And 알다, to know. So, I said that Tashi P means like in the way of, or like the verb, or just as the verb. In this case, you can translate it as you verb. So in this case, 보다, to see, as you see. 보다시피, as you see. 말하다, to say, or someone says something. So 말했다시피. 했다시피. Well, you should know that this form, Tashi P, can be used with any tense. Specifically, this form can be used with both the present tense. That's when you just take the verb stem as is. So 보다 is 보다시피. Or you can also use this form with the past tense verb stem. So in that case, 보다, the past tense stem would become, normally you'd get 봤어요, right? So 봤다시피. Now instead of saying 보다시피 as you see, you can also have 봤다시피 as you saw. So continuing, 듣다, 듣다시피, as you hear. Well, you probably wouldn't express as you hear unless you're talking about something currently being said right now. You'd probably hear someone say as you heard, right? 들었어요 is the past tense of 듣다, to hear. So 들었다시피, 들었다시피, as you heard, as you may have heard. 들었다시피, as you heard. 읽다, to read. 읽었어요, I read. 읽었다시피, as you read. 알다, to know. 알다시피, as you know. And then you would say something that you know the listener already knows. So that's how this form works exactly. So you take a verb stem, present tense or past tense, you attach it directly onto the end, Tashi P, and you're done. There's one more thing that I need to tell you though before we give some example sentences. So I'm going to leave this up just for a second so you can write down the verbs, and I'm going to check the chat. Pie in the face for a $500 donation. Okay. But it would have to be today. If we hit, I know we're not, but if we hit, I'm like spoiling my donation already. We're not going to do it. We're totally not going to hit that today because I've never hit that amount before ever. Oh no, that's not true. When I hit 600,000 subscribers, someone did donate $600. So I guess it has once happened where I've gotten more than that. But if we hit $500 donation today, Jeremy will pie me in the face. I'll make a pie and record it and put it onto my Discord so everyone can see. Should we have a smaller donation as well that's more realistic that we can go for today? So Sue Amazing is asking, can it mean as I see? No, it's not. 같은 의미를 가지고 있어요. Yeah, I think Nina might be a oh, never mind. I was gonna say I think Nina is a Korean, but then I saw one of the other sentences. There's a small typo in there, but still, I can tell you know some Korean. I was thinking from one. Lady Natbug was saying I was thinking from one person. Okay. Yeah, small. I still remember that. It was a Bulbasaur. Okay. And there's one more thing you need to know about this form. Oh yeah, Jeremy added another origami. This one's a kind of a shiny crane. Because I asked him if he had any others to show off. You can't really see it that well. But I asked him if he had any other little origami to show off. And he's like, I have another crane. It's kind of shiny. I can give you that one. So we added that. Okay. So I said that you can use it with present tense and past tense verb stems. So like 말하다. You can have 말하 다시 피. Or you could also have past tense. 말했다시 피. You can also, though, use this with honorific versions of all of those verbs that I gave you. So, what's the honorific version of 말하다? Write in chat, what's the honorific version of 말하다? To say, what's the honorific version? Now, since we're saying as you, 말하다, as you said, 말했다시피, or 말하다시피 as someone says, since we're saying that, we're talking about another person. So you could also use honorifics since you're talking about another person. Bulbasaur? No, not Bulbasaur. It was a Bulbasaur. Nina says, half Korean from watching Korean dramas. I would believe you. It's true, though. If you watch enough Korean dramas, I think it's like 100 shows, including both seasons and specials and everything like that. The Korean government is by law required to send you a plaque that gives you half citizenship in Korea. It's true. Try it. They might not send it to you right away. You might have to keep bugging them. You might have to like call them up and tell them what you did and keep asking, but they'll eventually give in. They'll give you your plaque. I'm sure. Yes. You can say 말씀하다, that's right, or 하시다, right? So you can get those as well. So you can have, you could also use 말씀하시다. Now, small note, but 말씀 is actually not honorific. 말씀 can be used for yourself. You can say 말씀하다 for someone else's words or for yourself. It's more polite. But what makes this honorific is combining this together with 하시다. So instead of 말하다, you can use the honorific version, 말씀하시다. So instead of just saying 말했다시피, as someone said, now you can say 말씀하셨다시피, as someone said, but now it's much more honorific. Now it's much more polite sounding since you're talking about another person. Another quick example, 알다, to know. You could just say 알다시피, as you know. But if you want to be polite, which you usually do when you're talking to other people, you can use the honorific version of 알다, which is 아시다. Now you have 아시다시피, as you know. You could have also used the past tense honorific version, 아셨다시피, as you knew. So you have a lot of options with just one form. So let's do an example sentence. I'm going to give you the sentence. I just want you to fill in the Tashi P part. I'll keep it simple. We're going to say, as you know, 아이스크림은 우유로 만들어요. So they make ice cream with milk. As you know. So just give me the word as you know. If you're thinking this is too easy, Billy, it's okay. I want it to be easy. I just want you to get the form. And this form really is that easy. So if you're feeling it's easy, congratulations, that's the form for this. We'll do another form right after this, which is a little bit more to it, but also actually works in the same way. Bookskitball asks, how would you normally use 말씀? Anytime you want to sound more polite. So you wouldn't use this with your friends. You wouldn't use this in everyday conversations. But if you want to sound extra polite to someone, you can say 말씀. Either 말씀하다 for yourself or 말씀하시다 for someone else. Or 말씀드리다 is even more polite. That uses the humble version of 드리다 instead of 하다. Okay, I'm just reading your things. 아시다시피, nice. 아시다시피, 알다시피, yep. 알다시피, perfect, Keith. 알다시피, 천천히 말씀해 주세요. I remember, yeah, you can say that. 천천히 말해 주세요 is also okay. 천천히 말씀해 주세요 is a little bit more polite. 조금 더 천천히 말씀해 주시겠어요 is even more polite. Like, do you think you can speak a little bit more? Instead of saying, please speak a little slowly, you can say, could you please speak a little slower? 천천히 말씀해 주시겠어요? That 주시겠어요 is a much more polite way of asking for something. Whereas 주세요 technically is a command. You're saying, give it to me. You're just saying it nicely. Please give it to me is what you're saying. So I recommend 주시겠어요 as a question. Like, would you give it to me? So 말씀해 주시겠어요? Would you please speak a little bit slower for me? Like that. Although you can also use 주세요 depending on how your tone and the thing you're talking about. It doesn't always need to be super polite. But I like using like the 시겠어요, 으시겠어요 form to be more polite when I'm asking someone to do something, especially if it's not something that they're supposed to be doing for me. Okay, so you have a lot of options here, but I'm just going to give you one answer. Again, you could have used 아시다시피, as you know. 알다시피, 알다, to know. So 알다시피, as you know. 아이스크림은, ice cream, 우유, milk로 using or with, 만들어요, to make. So they make, using milk, ice cream. So ice cream is made with milk. As you know, they make ice cream with milk. 알다시피 아이스크림은 우유로 만들어요. Let's do another. Let's say, as you see. I want you to make as you see. There we go. As you see, 이 집은, this house is 이미 already 팔리다, is to be sold. 팔렸어요. So this house was already sold. As you see, this house has already been sold. Okay, we've got Keith is saying, can 주실까요 be used as a middleist ground? No, that's actually good question, but like 하실까요 is actually a grammatically incorrect form that you will hear service workers sometimes use as a middle ground. It is not it's not used outside of the service industry. You're not going to hear it used regularly. Like, could you please do this? It's kind of just like, it's actually, they'll say 쉴게요, 하실게요, 주실게요. Kind of like that is what you'll hear. I did a video about that actually. But 주실까요 would be a little bit awkward because the 가요 is suggesting something like, how about you would do this for me, is kind of what you literally get, but it sounds awkward because you're not asking them to do it. You're saying, how about you do it? It's also, just to add on to that, it's also kind of grammatically incorrect. So I wouldn't recommend using that, but there would be a like 주실게요 or 하실게요, which is, like I said, service people might use that. It would sound a bit awkward though. Outside of that situation. There's a bunch of Korean that is used by people who work in service jobs that is incorrect, but tends to get used anyway, just in an effort to sound as polite as possible. Let's see what we got. 보시다시피, yes. Perfect, Keith. 보다시피, yes. 보다시피, 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 보시다시피, yep. 보다시피. And then Sue Amazing is saying, in that ice cream sentence, can we use the 가지고 form that we learned? 아이스크림은 우유를 가지고 만들어요. You can, though it would only be for speech and it would sound more informal because I taught this back when we did the 가지고 lesson, but it's actually physically like using something to make something or using something to do something. So yes. But if you're explaining something, like you see, ice cream is made using milk, you're not going to use the 가지고 form because it's like you have a nice proper sentence and then you throw in 가지고 into your proper sentence and it sounds a little bit mismatched. Like putting a slang word into a dictionary definition. Like if you look up the definition of cheese and it's like, you know, that stuff made from milk, y'all. Like grammatically, your sentence is perfectly fine, but it doesn't quite fit to put 가지고 in there. So I would say, yeah, you're going to be safe. It'll make sense. It's correct. But because you have the 알다시피 in there, which has that kind of, as you know, feeling to it, it would be a little bit mismatched. Is 보다시피 only used at the beginning or as you... No. We're going to get there. Don't worry. It's not only... I'll just answer your question though, but no. You can use it wherever you want in a sentence. As someone saw, as someone said, as you may have heard yesterday, you can also use like 어제 들었다시피, as you heard yesterday. It doesn't have to be the very first thing in the sentence. So, and there are more examples of that sort of usage in the worksheet. If you are a member of my Patreon page, thank you so much for supporting me. You get access to a bunch of stuff, but you also get all of the worksheets for these live lessons. So the worksheet for today's lesson has an extra, like, I don't know, I think it's not too many. I think it's like 6 or so extra sentences that you can practice with. And some of those also have things before the Tashi P form that you can practice with. Okay. 보시다시피. So here it's 보다, to see. In honorific form, 보시다. 보시다시피. So as you see, if you were to use this in past tense, you would get 보셨다시피, as you saw, but here it's present. 이 집은, this house, 이미 already, 팔리다, to be sold. So was already or has already been sold. As you see, this house has already been sold. 보시다시피 이 집은 이미 팔렸어요. Okay, next sentence. As you heard. As you heard. The verb is 듣다. I'll just give you that. As you heard. 내일은, tomorrow, 시험, a test 있어요. There's a test tomorrow. As you heard, there's a test tomorrow. What is this one? While you're doing that, I'm going to check the chat. Yes, Sue Amazing, 들었다시피, nice. 오늘 하루는 말했다시피. So, you don't need the 하루는, because 오늘 하루는, it's like today, for today is what it means. So it wouldn't match with as... For today, as someone said, there wouldn't be a context for that to make sense. 듣다시피, as you hear, we want to have the sentence as you heard. 들었다시피, 들으셨다시피, yeah, 들었다시피, 듣다시피, as you hear. Remember, the tense is the important thing. While 듣다시피 means as you hear, that would be like someone's currently saying something. So you're saying, as you can hear, then this is what I'm saying. But usually it's something it's already, they finished saying it. So you're remarking something based on what you've already heard. So as you heard, you want the past tense. Gianna, welcome. Yes. 들었다시피. It's just 들었다시피입니다. Okay, 30 more seconds and I'm going to give you the answer. Okay. 듣다, to hear. So 들었다, heard. 들었다시피, as you heard. 내일은, tomorrow is, tomorrow. 시험, a test. 시험이 있어요. There is a test tomorrow. As you heard, there is a test tomorrow. 들었다시피 내일은 시험이 있어요. So as you heard, there is a test tomorrow. As you heard, there's a test tomorrow. Okay, one more sentence, and then we're going to go on to the next form that we have here. I don't want to write this in red. Right? It's like pink. It's too close. Let's do blue. 청소를 할 거야. Okay. 엄마, mom. 말하다, to say something. So in this case, 엄마가 말했어요. Mom said. 엄마가 말했다시피, as mom said. So as mom said, and you all heard her. 주말에는, so on the weekend. 주말 is weekend. N is 에는. 주말엔 다 같이, all together. 청소 is cleaning. 청소를 할 거야. We're going to do the cleaning all together on the weekend, as mom said. 엄마가 말했다시피 주말엔 다 같이 청소를 할 거야. As mom said, this weekend, on the weekend, we're all going to do cleaning together. That's what mom said. So as mom said, on the weekend, we're all going to do cleaning together. 엄마가 말했다시피 주말엔 다 같이 청소를 할 거야. So you don't need to use the 다시피 form as the very first form in a sentence. It can also come after other words. For example, in this case, who said it? Or maybe you had like a time. Maybe like 어제 엄마가 말했다시피. Or like 좀 전에 들었다시피. As you heard a little while ago. You can add in other words like that as well. I'll leave this up just for less than a minute, and then we're going to go on to the next form. Keith says, is there an as it is written? Something like 훈민정음 쓰이다시피. So, yes, there is a thing that you're talking about, but it's going to be 가라사대 or 가로대. And I did a lesson about that before. It's the form you're looking for. I did a live stream about it. It's this. 돼. Search 돼 on my channel, or don't, because you'll never use it. That's an old way to say it. That's like, as the scriptures say, as the, what do you call it? The scholar says, like, that's what you can use. There's another way you can do it, which is a little more modern. It's 길을. So you attach, I know I'm just writing in between the sentence because there might still be people writing this down. 길을. So you'd use this right after an action verb stem. So like, 말씀하시기를. As the 엄마가 말씀하시기를, as mother says, then you can say like, and then there's your quote can follow after that. Those are two ways to do it. Oh, Flo Purdy. Flo Purdy, thank you so much. Bottom of the hour donation. Yay, now my lights go off. I'm glad I fixed that. Bottom of the hour for the fund that has no name. The fund with no name. Thank you, Flo. Yeah, the fund has no name. I'm not sure. I guess it's Survival Fund. Unless it hits 500, then it's Jeremy Pies Me in the Face Fund. It's one or the other. Yeah. Cosma says, are there no honorifics for mother because the sentence is probably said towards siblings? Yes. That's exactly why. But the reason, actually, yes and no. The reason that the sentence is in casual is because it's being said to a sibling, probably. 할 거야. The reason it doesn't have honorifics, though, is not because it's being said to a sibling. It's because the speaker is simply not adding extra honorifics to their parents, which is something normally Korean kids don't do. I don't know a good percentage. I'm just going to say it's 50-50. Maybe more often than not, though. It might be more like 80 to 20. Korean kids these days, kids, actually, normally, Korean kids, at least for the past few generations, do not speak politely, extra politely toward their parents once they are no longer in like preschool. Like as soon as they're actually like elementary school, really though, once they're in like middle school, they don't speak extra politely to their parents. They'll speak casually just like they would when talking to anyone else, like their friend. The reason is because it's your relationship. Like there are several factors for how you speak with someone. And one of the major ones is your relationship with that person. The next one is your age with them. So if you're really close with someone, even though they're older or younger than you, you might have a different way of speaking. And that's the same for family members. Even if you have like an older sibling, if they are not in your family, you would definitely always speak more politely to them. But if they're your family member, then it's different. You speak casually, even if they're older than you. You wouldn't add honorifics or anything like that. It's still casual. So they do that with their parents. So it's just because the speaker is not adding honorifics when talking to their own parents. That's why it's 했다시피 and not 말씀하셨다시피. The ending though here, 할 거야, is because they're speaking to a sibling, which they also wouldn't use any like 할 거예요 or anything like that. It wouldn't use polite speech to their own sibling. So Tashi P used in that way is really only used with a small select amount of verbs that I showed you. But there's another form that also uses Tashi P that at first glance seems completely different, but is actually the same form. The next form that we have to do is this one, which I know it might look confusing, so I'm going to give you a minute to write it down. While I restart YouTube because it keeps crashing all the time. 대로 is different. 대로 is according to. But that's not in the way of, that's not as, like as. 대로, though, I've done a separate live class about that. That has a few different uses. And 대로 would also be only used with verbs with the 는 ending, which is the present tense adjective form of an action verb. It's a fancy way just to say it's always going to be 는 대로 when used with a verb. So like 하다 would be 하는 대로, like that. That is not that form. That would be as soon as. And then when you're talking about it with a noun like 말대로 or something like that, 순서대로, it's in according to or in accordance with, like in respect to that is what it means. 마음대로, 말대로, like that. That's not this form. Okay, so hopefully this form isn't too confusing for you because you got to first take an action verb stem and you add Tashi P just like you did before. But what makes this form 10 times more difficult is then you got to add the verb 하다 and conjugate it. Oh no, what am I going to do? So yeah, it's basically the exact same thing. You just add 하다 at the end. But the meaning of this form is different. Instead of meaning in the way of or as or like the verb, this form means to almost do something. Like you didn't do it, but you almost do it. So you can also think of this as meaning practically. Like I practically did it. I didn't do it, but you know, I practically did. I almost did. Also, there's one more thing you need to know before I tell you about how this works. This uses an action verb stem, but it only uses the regular present tense. Before we had Tashi P, we saw it with present tense and past tense, right? You could have like 보다시피 as you see, or like 봤다시피 as you saw. This one, though, is only the present tense stem. So you would only have, for example, if you were to use hada, you would only get ha-dashi pi. You could not have het-dashi pi hada with this form. That's one thing to keep in mind. In that way, it's actually simpler to use. You don't have to worry about past tense or present tense or anything like that. So the way that this works, you might be wondering though, how does this mean almost do or practically if all we did was add the verb hada? You might be asking, how does this have a different meaning if it's the exact same form just with hada? I'm going to give you a sentence and then I'm going to explain how it works. I feel like if you see the sentence, it'll make more sense once you see the sentence. Okay. Okay, read the sentence on your own first for a second. Lady Natbug is saying, are they Americanizing? No, it's not an Americanizing thing. It's just a, I'm not sure if this is a newer thing because I don't know enough about how kids would speak to their parents prior to the 60s. So I can't really tell you if it's a change or it's always been this way. But I'll let you know though that kids are kids 2,000 years ago as they are today. So I'm pretty sure there wouldn't be too much. There probably would be someone like 500 years ago who's like, oh, kids these days not polite anymore because they only say like 안녕하시 옴나이까, and they used to say 안녕하시 오시 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 나이까 when I was a kid. Like I'm sure there was someone back hundreds of years ago that was making that exact same statement. I'm gonna say no, it's the same as it always has ever been. Same as it ever was, right? Okay. 작년에는, last year. So last year, 한동안 is just a while, for a long time, for a certain period of time. 한국어, Korean language, 매일, every day, 공부하다, to study. 공부하다시피 했어요. So I practically studied, I almost studied Korean every day for a while last year. So last year, for a while, I was studying Korean almost every day. Or I was practically studying Korean every day. 작년에는 한동안 한국어를 매일 공부하다시피 했어요. So last year, I practically studied Korean every day. If you can read this sentence and understand it, you do not need to know why this is the same form as before or how it is. All you need to know is that if you add hada after this form, then you get the meaning of almost or practically. But if you are an advanced learner or you're just really curious, this is actually the same form. So plug your ears if you don't want to know the complicated stuff behind it, but Tashi P in this form is the exact same form that we just did because I said that Tashi P is used to mean in the way of that verb, or like as that verb, or like that verb, right? So let's look at it like that. Before we had 보다, so like 보다시 피, as you see, so like in the way that you see, like you see, right? Like you see, or as you see. Well, let's pretend that this is that form for a second, not the hada version. Let's pretend this is the regular form without hada. So 공부하다시피. So if this was the other form we just did, what would that mean? 공부하다시피. Like you're doing studying. As you study. In the way of studying. 했어요. Someone did. So someone did like they studied. Yeah, that's used to mean that something is similar to. It's like. So they did studying similar. They did something similar to studying every day. Korean is what you get. You don't need to think of it that way when you are reading these sentences, but just to show you that it's the exact same form with another usage. So it's actually the same form, but all you need to know is that if you see Tashi P with hada, you can think of it as translating as to almost do or practically do. Not like you're almost doing it like on mistake, like not like you're almost doing it by mistake, like, oh man, I almost tripped while coming here. That's not what this means. You wouldn't say like, 너무 지다시피 했어요, like I almost was tripping like that, because that means I was doing something like I was tripping. That doesn't quite have the same meaning as doing something almost by mistake. This is practically doing something. You're not doing it, but it's close enough. Because again, literally, this form means like or as you do the verb. In this case, as you study. So I did like I was studying every day Korean for a while last year. 한동안에는, sorry, I was reading this over there. 작년에는 한동안 한국어를 매일 공부하다시피 했어요. So last year I practically studied Korean every day. Let's do another sentence. Oh, and yes, so I should say, it doesn't mean like you're almost doing it, like you almost tripped and fell over, you almost missed the bus, something like that. This is like you're like doing it. You're not doing it, but it's close to what you would be doing if you were doing that. You'll commonly see this form, although it doesn't have to be, used with these adverbs. 거의, which means almost or nearly, and 겨우, which means barely. Now, it doesn't have to be used together with these adverbs, but sometimes you'll see sentences that use 거의 something, you'll see 거의 something 다시 P 하다 or 겨우 다시 P 하다, like that, just to add more emphasis to that meaning of almost or like nearly almost, like that. Barely almost. So it's not a requirement, but you also will see these adverbs used together with these sentences. Okay, let me give you another sentence. I want you to make this sentence. I want you to finish it if you can. Lately, 요즘, lately, nowadays, 도서관, library, 도서관에서, so at the library, and I want you to make the sentence, I am practically living at the library nowadays. I want you to make this sentence. So I'm practically living at the library. It doesn't mean like I almost lived at the library. I almost spent all my money on samurai swords and didn't have enough money to pay for my rent, so I almost had to live at the library. It's not that almost, it's practically almost. So I am practically living at the library. It doesn't mean I do live at the library, but it means like I go there every single day. I might as well be living there. That sort of meaning. Again, with Tashi P, it's like you're living there. So we want the sentence, I am practically living, so it's going to be a progressive form, at the library these days. So go ahead and try it. If you can't do it, don't worry. I'll give you the answer in just a minute. Oh, Keith asked, does Tashi P come from anything? Yes. You can't find the actual origin on the internet for Tashi P, but it's something probably like the regular verb stem ta, which is just doing the verb, with 쉽다, 쉽피. Possibly this. But I can't give that for certain because we don't know, because even in like early documents that you can find on Naver Dictionary and stuff, it still lists it as spelled the correct way, Tashi P. But it's possible it came from this, which is like in the similar way as this, which actually works similarly to, if you're already familiar with this form, 드시. It's also kind of similar to how this works, like doing something. Okay. Let's see if anyone has an answer. We have Tashi P Had. That is, I practically live, but I want the sentence I am practically living. Tashi Had would work, but small has it. Tashi 하고 있어요. Nice, nice. 하고 있어요, as well as Valeria got it. Roadrunner. Yes. 살다시피 했어요 is a correct sentence, but it's like saying lately I was practically living at the library. So the tenses don't match. Since you're saying lately, it has to be present tense, something happening right now, or progressive tense, right? Something is happening, but you can't say lately I did. Unless it's like a one-time thing, right? This is like something in English too. We wouldn't say like lately I made a pizza is okay because it's a one-time thing, but lately I was making pizza. It doesn't match. Like lately I was doing something multiple times doesn't match. So it's the same in Korean. You would have to say something like am currently. Unless you removed the 요즘, if you removed the time, then you could say 도서관에서 살다시피 했어요. I practically lived at the library. 살다시피 하고 있어요. Yes, Keith. Perfect. Yeah, Sue, if you want to emphasize that it has been going on, then you would use the 고 있어요 form. 고 있다. Okay, 요즘은 lately, nowadays, recently, these days. 도서관, library에서, at the library, 살다, to live. 살다시피, literally, like I am living, 하고 있어요. So I am doing like I am living at the library these days. 요즘은 도서관에서 살다시피 하고 있어요. So these days I am 하고 있어요. Practically or almost living at the library. Obviously, I don't really live there, but I'm practically living there because I go there every single day to study or whatever. Rent the DVDs because they have DVDs at the library. They have movies there. You can rent movies for free. Bet you didn't know that. You can rent laptops there for free. You can use their Wi-Fi for free. They have a lot of cool stuff at the library. You should check out the library next time you go there. I bet you didn't know that they had free stuff. Seriously, you can, if you have a library card, you can even sign up for free streaming services. Not Netflix, but they have there's a streaming service you can get with your library card. Then you can log on and just watch free movies. Yeah, bet you didn't know that. Bet you didn't know that. Or go there, they'll have shelves of DVDs. They'll have decent movies. They have some cool movies there. Yeah. Okay. One more sentence of this, and then we're going to do a little bit something else. There's something else we still have to talk about for this form. So we can go a little bit further with it, but first I'll give you one more example of this standard way it works. Oh, actually. 너무 좁아서 앉아서 자다시피 했어요. Okay, let's look at this in two parts. 방, room. 방이 너무 좁아요. 좁다 is to be narrow. So it's too small. The room is too small as in narrow. So 방이 너무 좁아서, because the room is too, 너무, narrow. And then the second part, 앉아서 자다. 앉다 is to sit down. So 앉아서 자다 means to sleep sitting down. Or I should say, sitting up. To sleep sitting up. 자다시피 하다. To do almost like you're sleeping sitting up is what we get for the meaning. So 했어요. I practically slept sitting up because the room is too narrow. 방이 너무 좁아서 앉아서 자다시피 했어요. So because the room was so small or so narrow, I practically slept 앉아서 자다. I practically slept, or I almost slept, pretty much. It's like I was sleeping sitting because the room was so narrow. That would be a very narrow room. Usually the smallest dimensions you'll find for bedrooms is going to be 9 feet by 9 feet. 9 feet by 8 feet maybe, and that's enough room for a full bed. So if you're like sitting up and sleeping, it's going to be like, you're not supposed, it's probably a closet, probably not supposed to be using it as a bedroom. 방이 너무 좁아서 앉아서 자다시피 했어요. So because the room is too narrow, too small, I practically slept sitting up. Okay. I'm going to leave this up for just a minute and take some comments. Look at the chat for a second, and then we're going to do something else with this form. Ayakata says, 제가 대학교에서 살다시피, small typo, 살다시피 해요. Does 살고 있다시피 해요? No, it would not. Because the 다시 P meaning attaches to the verb that you're talking about. In this case, 살고 있다. The 있다 is the meaning of continuing. So that would be like, I am practically continuing living. Like, it makes sense. Like, if someone hears it, they'll know what you were trying to say. In that way, it makes sense, but it's grammatically wrong. Keith asks, is this similar to 셈이다? No, 셈이다 is to make a guess about something, to say something seems to be a certain way. That's like a general seeming meaning. I have a separate live stream about 셈이다. Sue Amazing says, 좁다 becomes 좁아. Yes, 좁다 is not one of the verbs that changes when it conjugates. And I actually had a video about why some verbs do and some verbs don't get rid of that letter, the piup, that B letter, when they conjugate. And it's an interesting video. You can go check it out. It's like a couple years ago I uploaded it. Has to do with Old Korean. 요즘은 도서관에서 살다시피 하고 있어요. Yes. Okay. So I told you that these forms are actually the same. One of them is simply like, as you see, or as you heard, or as you said, like that. And the other one is to almost do, or to practically do something. And these are actually the same form. But because 다시 P by itself means in the way of, or as, like that verb, or like an action verb, you can also use it with other things besides just 하다. First of all, though, there's a common expression that you should know. I go on the next line. I ran out of space here. Okay. This is also the same form, but this is used as an expression. 밥 먹다시피. 밥 먹다시피. So here we have 철수, our friend 철수. 철수는 지각 is to be late. 지각하다 is to be late. So 지각을 해요. 철수 is late. How often? 밥 먹다시피. 밥 is rice or a meal. 밥 먹다 is to eat a meal. So 먹다시피, in the way of eating food, or like he eats food, or as he eats food. So he's late like he eats food is the literal meaning, but it implies that because we eat 3 meals a day, we eat really, really easily, frequently, it's used to imply that this happens very frequently. So if you want to say that someone does something like clockwork, they do it all the time, then you can use this expression, 밥 먹다시피. 밥 먹다시피. So someone does it like they eat food. In this case, 철수 is late like he always is. Or 철수 is just very frequently late. 철수는 지각을 밥 먹다시피 해요. You might notice something though about the sentence. That's not all there is in the sentence. So in this sentence, something you might not have noticed is that this 해요 at the end is actually not really talking about this. This 밥 먹다시피 is a separate part of the sentence. The sentence originally is just 철수는 지각을 해요. 지각하다 is to be late. So 철수 is late. 밥 먹다시피 is used as an adverb separately from 하다. It just so happens that this is also 하다 here, but it's not using he is almost eating food late. No, this is used as an adverb. You can also use Tashi P just like an adverb without 하다. Now, 하다 is just used to show what the person's doing, like whatever verb that's used before Tashi P. This though can be a different verb. If we didn't use 지각하다, but we use something else here, you could also use it in the same sentence just by switching these. Let me give you another example. And this will be our last example for today, but there are more examples on the worksheet of this. I didn't want to put too many in the lesson though, because it's almost 3 o'clock. I try to keep the lessons about an hour and 10 minutes maximum. Let's write this a little bit farther down. Okay. Okay. Here is a sentence with Tashi P that doesn't have 하다 at all. 쓰러지다 is to collapse, to fall over. 쓰러지다. You can say someone 쓰러졌어요, like they collapsed, they just fell over. Like to faint. 쓰러지다시피. So like someone collapses. In the way of someone collapsing. So just like someone collapsed, or you can think of it like practically like someone collapsed, or almost as if they collapsed. However you want to translate, Tashi P is fine. Again, it's the same form though as the verb, like the verb. Like might be the easiest way to translate it. So like someone collapses, 침대, the bed, 침대에, so into the bed. 눕다 is to lie down. So they lie down in the bed like they collapsed, is the literal meaning of the sentence you get. This is, I collapsed into bed. So literally though, I laid down in bed as if, or like I collapsed, is what you get. So where is the 하다 in this sentence? If I were to add 하다, where would it go? Can you make a guess? Because you could add that 하다 still here. Because again, I said it's like you're collapsing. So there should be a 하다 here from this form. But where would it go? Yeah, 철수 is just a name. 철수 is also going to be in season 3 of Squid Game. After the Tashi P. Yeah, Sue, you're right. So after Tashi P, yeah, after Tashi P. It's pretty simple. It wasn't really a trick question, but if you were to add 하다 to the sentence, it would go right here. But how would you add it? You could do, this is advanced, so don't worry about this if you're not advanced. This is a bit advanced, but you could add 하요. 하요 is the same thing as 해. It's just the conjugation of 해 used for like 해서, like that sort of conjugation. The older written version of 해 is 하요. So it's the same thing though. So doing something and So doing like they're collapsing, and then is what it means, like 해서 침대에 누웠어요. But when you are using Tashi P Had, and Hada is not at the end of your sentence. Again, it's still here, but it's not at the end of your sentence. You're using this just as an adverb. Hada is optional, and most often that you'll never see it used in speech, dropped. You could add it back in, like 쓰러지다시피 하여 침대에 누웠어요, but then it sounds written and it sounds a little more formal. But it's technically correct. It's the same form. So when Tashi P is used with Hada, so you're using this form of like as you do something practically or almost, but it's not used at the end of a sentence, so you don't get Hada at the end of a sentence, it's removed. So it's still there in spirit, just like the Yoda and the Anakin and all those guys at the end of Star Wars. They're there, but they're not doing anything at that point. Don't know why they were. Why did they replace Hayden Christensen? I mean, the original actor with Hayden Christensen at the end of Return of the Jedi, when he wouldn't be that young guy in the movie because Yoda's still old. They kept the Obi-Wan still old, but then they made him, Hayden Christensen, made him really young again. It didn't make any sense. They should have made him at least, if they wanted to replace the actor, they should have at least made him old, like how he was when he died, right? I never got that point of the thing. It was like, anyway, I'm still upset they changed Boba Fett's voice though too. So I got a lot of issues with Star Wars. Okay, 쓰러지다시피 침대에 누웠어요. So anytime you're using this form and it's not at the end of a sentence, hada gets removed. That's pretty easy to remember, right? The reason is hada only is describing the verb. It's already acting as the adverb. So like if you were to say 쓰러지다시피, it's like as you collapse. So like you would collapse. So you can think of it like that. 쓰러지다시피 침대에 누웠어요. So I lied down in bed as if I collapsed, or just I collapsed into bed. I'll leave this up for just a second. I still have the VHS. Oh yeah, I have all 3 VHS tapes of the original Star Wars from the first VHS release that they did. They aired them on, was it CBS or something? Like they released a box set of VHS tapes, and I have all of those on VHS. I also have they released the special editions. Was it the special editions or no? It was the prequels, I think. But then they also released them. I can't remember if it's the prequels or special editions, but they released it with the DVDs of the originals. I don't know what they released it with because I've never seen them. I think I probably got rid of the DVDs. But yeah, I also have them on DVD. The best versions, though, you can actually find on the internet now because they did restoration on some old 35mm prints that are in really good condition. So you can watch the originals now, which is really nice. But yeah. Okay. James is like, don't get me started. You know what? The people who hate Star Wars the most are also the biggest Star Wars fans. I'll tell you that. No one hates Star Wars like a Star Wars fan. Okay. It's because we get really passionate about it, right? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to take a really quick thumbnail. That's my thumbnail image. That is the lesson. Any questions? Feel free to ask questions that you have now about the lesson or just about anything about Korean or Korea or anything in general you want to know. Now is the time to ask. If you feel like you want more example sentences, I get you. I can't do too many sentences in these lessons or they'll go too long. But there are a bunch of extra example sentences. If you get my worksheet, there's a worksheet for like every live stream. You can find them on my Patreon page. There's also going to be this outline for today. So if you didn't take notes, don't worry. Everything I talk about is on here for the live stream. All the sentences, all the notes I say about the sentences, like extra verbs, all the verb examples I give you, like all of it's there. So you get these on my Patreon page. And again, Patreon is only $1. So I'm not asking for much. All I want is your money. And you get all these great things like outlines and worksheets for all of my live streams. Thank you though for everyone who is a member of Patreon as well as YouTube here. So I will now take questions. Alita Baker. Hey! Alita Baker. Thank you. Thanks for the $5 donation. Oops. Let's write that a little neater. Billy, I bought a bunch of your books, but my Korean isn't any better. Do I need to read them? You know what? You actually don't. Contrary to popular belief, you don't need to read any of my books. You just have to own them. In fact, that's the same for learning any skill or any Korean book. You just have to purchase it. Like subscriptions, you got to buy all subscriptions. You got to buy all the books there are, hire all the tutors, but you don't actually have to do any of it. You just, if you feel like your Korean's not getting better, it's because you haven't purchased enough books yet. So maybe what you really need is to buy them again, and then that'll like double the amount that you're learning. If you ever thought of that before, consider that. 제가 쓰러지다시피 침대에 누웠어요. Ayakata says, opinion about Kwan's... Okay, if you haven't seen Cobra Kai, please plug your ears for a second. Kwan's death of Cobra Kai. He deserved it, man. I mean, he's a kid, okay? So I feel bad. Like, you know, Miyagi's like, no, bad student, only bad teacher, right? Is what he said. That kid was a jerk, okay? So I didn't shed a tear at the end of season 5 or whatever. But not to say he deserved it, though. Just that I wasn't sad when it happened. But what I thought was kind of funny, though, is so Kwan died and then he gets like, they do like a ceremony for like burning him. I'm like, I know he didn't have parents, but like, they just did it like it is his karate dojo in like the middle of the forest. They like burned the coffin like Darth Vader style and everything. And I'm like, what? Like, how does this happen? But yeah, I loved the ending though, I'll say. I won't spoil anything specifically, but yeah, if you like cheesy B movies and you liked Karate Kid, then Cobra Kai gives you what you want. It was really fun to watch, and I'm also looking forward to the new movie that they're coming out with. The Karate... I can't remember what it's called. There's something with both Ralph from the Karate Kid and with Jackie Chan from the newer Karate Kid one. So yeah, I wasn't sad about it, but still, I thought it was a bit sudden. Because his character doesn't really get any closure, right? Like, he had I don't know. Tashi P is a writing, but Tashi... I'm not sure what you're talking about. Jihoon. I should catch up on Cobra Kai, says Keith. I mean, if you felt yourself not catching up with it, you probably don't need it. It's like, if you want that show, you know you want it. Like, that's the right kind of cheese for me. So I enjoyed it. Every episode was like chef's kiss, like perfect. So great. There are a bunch of scenes in that show that make you go like, yeah, when they happen. Anyway. 3년 전에 고빌리 작가님의 책을 2개 샀어요. Nice. The Korean team joining then leaving like that was weird. Yeah, that was a bit weird. There were some things where I felt like they had more places to go, but they realized in the middle of season 6, or maybe it was the end of season 5, they're like, oops, we have to end the show after all. So we'll quickly kind of tidy up this stuff. So there are a few things that felt a little bit like that. Like the team decides to drop out and then suddenly Daniel is okay with it. You know, I was like, okay, but like they didn't have that arc properly leading up to him accepting that fully. I felt kind of a little rushed that she's like, I'm dropping out, and he's like, I'm okay. Like he went from like really mean and upset to suddenly I'm okay again really fast. I felt like they needed a little bit longer to smooth that out. Still though, for shows, it did a good job. No show's gonna be perfect, but they did a really good job with what they did. I did like it a lot, says Keith. Season 1 Korean shows more. Oh, you like one season Korean shows more. Okay. Hold on, let me just check something. On here. Got an email. No. Okay. Any other questions besides Cobra Kai? I will say, though, I'm really happy we got an ending, because I've seen some other shows that they just cut off and you never get a good ending for them. Cough, Firefly, cough. Cough, that Limitless TV show, cough. Like, so many shows, they start getting good and then Netflix destroys them and never makes a new season or whatever, or they'll give you like 2 seasons and then they never do any more with it. So you don't really get a good, satisfying conclusion, I feel, to a lot of TV shows. They just kind of, oh, hey, we're not doing it again. The end. There's your ending. Like, they always make an ending at the end of each season, just in case if they have to end it. But that's not always a satisfying ending. The Quantum Leap show, if anyone saw the Quantum Leap reboot show, they gave it 2 seasons, but they also didn't finish it. But they gave it, at each of them has an ending. Each season has an ending in just in case if it got canceled. But it's not finished. I was disappointed that they canceled that show. Hazel says, I joined in halfway. I went through the sheet in advance, made sense a couple of phrases I heard on video I watched recently. Nice. Shiyun says, Tashi P? No, that is not correct. It is just Tashi P. That's how it's pronounced too. The only time it's Tashi P is if it's after the past tense. That's due to sound change rules, though, not because of the word changes. Tony asks, what's the popularity of karate in Korea compared to Taekwondo? Taekwondo is the most commonly taken sport in Korea, period. It is so common. It's like Americans doing, I'm trying to think, like track and field, like it's like us doing swimming class or like running class. It's like literally everyone takes Taekwondo in Korea. And I mean, Jeremy does Taekwondo when he's in Korea. Like, everyone can do it. I'd say karate is not going to be common unless someone specifically wants to do that. It's going to be, you're going to be learning Taekwondo if you're in Korea, or you might learn different versions of different styles, but it's not going to be, it's not like the other ones are that popular. Taekwondo is the number one. Lady Natbuck says, Billy, any new foodie chat worth mentioning? Foodie chat. I did share, I got that giant pizza you all bought me last time. Remember I did a donation goal for a giant 28-inch pizza? I got it on Tuesday. And I was ordering it, and I asked the person who was taking my order, they're like, we normally cut it up into 20 slices because it's a 28-inch pizza, which is actually the same size as 2 20-inch pizzas, the same amount of pizza. So it's ridiculously big. There's no reason that any sane person would order a 28-inch pizza. For one, it didn't even fit in my car door. I had to like tilt it. It wouldn't fit in my door. It would barely fit out the store's doors. So when I ordered it, they're like, are you sure, sir? Like, you really want? Our pizzas are extra large is 28 inches. It's 20 slices. I'm like, no. I want you to cut it like a regular pizza. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you know, like the regular large pizza. They're like, you mean like 10 slices? Yeah. So I got it cut into 10 slices. Each slice, I kid you not, each slice was this big. And I can't even show you it because it's like too big to show the camera. It was ridiculous. So I ate one slice and I was full because it's the size of like a whole medium pizza. But I ended up finishing 2 slices. My wife only ate 1. Jeremy ate 1.5. The next day I had 2 more. Jeremy had another 1.5. We ended up eating all of it, except I did save 2 of the slices in the freezer not because I couldn't eat it, but because I wanted to eat it again later. But all the rest of it was gone. It only lasted 2 days, except for those 2 slices. So yeah, it was really good. I do not regret it. It was very expensive. I will never get that size pizza again, but I do not regret it. Sue, you don't need to translate that separate word for ak. It's only used in those expressions. So just learn the expressions separately and you're good. Yeah, Keith, it was really big. It didn't fit. Of course, it wouldn't fit in our fridge. It didn't fit on the table. It was so big. Seriously, you'd think like, oh, I can eat a large pizza. I can eat a 28-inch. No, it's so big. I swear one slice was as big as like a medium pizza. Like that's how much pizza you're eating. And I could eat a whole medium pizza by myself. But after I eat it, like I had another one because of course, why not? It's pizza. Fortunately though, it was really good pizza because if it was low quality, I wouldn't have wanted to have more than one piece. Small says, I would have had like 4 slices. I have a big pizza stomach. I believe you. I almost did 3. I felt like I could have eaten 3, but I would have been like sick if I had finished a third. So I stopped at 2 because I was really full. But maybe if you have a big pizza stomach, I'm sure someone out there could actually eat the whole thing, but it was really big. Keith says, oh, first of all, let me see here. Vahi, I can't say your name, says, have you ever been to Big Mama's and Papa's Pizza? I don't know that. Lady Natbug says, Billy, tell Tanner about your typing game. Do I have a typing game? Let me see. Is there a typing link? Okay, yeah, there it is. Yeah, type in Korean. There you go. And I have the game. You can find it linked in the description. Or just search Hangul Attack. Hangul Attack on Google. You'll see. John says, is it okay to translate phrases literally from English? No, do not. They won't make sense. Unless the person is very familiar with English expressions and they know what you're doing. Even if they do, they'll think you're just trying to be funny. But it won't make any sense in Korean. They don't have... most of those expressions are not translatable into Korean. They will not make any sense. Kai says, my dinner is simply breadsticks with garlic sauce. Is that all they're feeding you in the Adobe dungeon? They just throw, like the CEO finishes eating. They like leave some scraps of meat on the bone and they throw it into like throw it into this big like drum filled with like food and random stuff and slop. And they pour like water in there. But today they put breadsticks in there because the king got full and left them on the plate. Keith asks, how does your wife like US pizza compared to Korean? She likes both. She likes both. I don't think she prefers one or the other so much. Tony says, should have taken pictures. I did. There were a couple pictures I put onto Discord. Kai says, any fun collabs planned for your trip? I haven't planned a single thing for my trip yet because I have been so busy working on the next course I'm going to be putting out, which is a Korean sentence connector course. I will finish writing that course though this week, which is good, but then I have to go back and redo the entire course from the very first lesson because I have to like fix sentences. I have to like organize it, put in a bunch of new vocabulary words. So if I'm lucky, I'll be able to finish that course before I go to Korea, but it's a lot of work. I'm also doing a book at the same time, which makes it harder. And, but it'll be cool. It'll be basically a reference course. So you don't have to watch it necessarily in order, but it'll have 20 different topics and it'll be pretty much every single sentence connector in Korean, like including like really hard advanced ones. And everything is organized by level. So if you are a beginner, you can watch it and just ignore the stuff that has advanced labels on it. And if you are advanced, you can ignore the beginning stuff and everyone's going to learn something from it. It's got a ton of stuff, but it is taking a lot of work to make. So that's what I've been doing. Because I've been so busy with that, I haven't had time to start planning for my trip in Korea at all. So I don't know who I'm going to be meeting yet. Fenny VZ says, I made the same mistake before because usually I eat a whole 20-inch pizza alone. I thought since it's just 8 inches, it's going to be like 25% bigger. Yeah, it's actually 100% bigger. I didn't know that either because I was curious, like how much bigger is a 28-inch pizza than a 20-inch pizza? And I calculated it and it's 97, 98%. It's essentially, it's 200%. It's twice as big. So yeah, it's double. Jeremy says, 안녕하세요, Billy. I just started studying Korean. I'm using your videos on Hangul as my main resource. Nice. Make sure to check out my beginner course, though, in case you're just using the 90-minute Hangul video. The beginner course is much better than that. It has that as like the first few lessons, and then you learn, it goes into the actual language. So check for my beginner course instead of that 90-minute Hangul video in case that's what you're using. Or you can finish that video first and then go on to the course and you can skip the first few lessons. Either way, it's fine. Billy, as a side job, you should try Korean stand-up. Kai says, and this is actually a feast compared to most days. Usually it's just bones and apple cores. Yes, those are bones of the employees who wouldn't do what the CEO said. But I mean, I'm sure they taste nice. And apple cores, yes. Hey, the seeds have got those seeds are pretty healthy. They've got like, you know, cyanide and stuff in them, right? I heard that like a lot of plant seeds have like poison in them. I know, what is it? Peach pits have like cyanide in them. Danny asks, when are you going to South Korea? At the end of May. Kai says, a new book? Yeah, it'll be the same material as the sentence connectors course that I'm doing. So if you buy the book, it supports me and you get the same stuff, but you also get it with the full glossary. You get the table of contents with it, everything. You can kind of reference it really quickly. And I think it works actually better as a book than as a video course because it's like a reference guide. So it's meant to be like, you watch the episodes, you take notes, and then you put the lessons aside and you just go out and like practice it and listen for that. It's not really meant to like you follow it and answer questions at the end and then like the next course is related to the previous lesson. It's not one of those types of courses. Like I said, it's for all levels, for new beginners all the way until high advanced learners. Nina asked a question. I didn't see it. A Go Billy stand-up would be great, or another YouTube channel full of imitations in Korean and English. Yes, we'll see. Kai says they taste like failure and doom. With a hint of garlic, you say. Jordan asks, what are topics to learn for someone who's going to study abroad in Korea? Before you go study abroad in Korea, make sure you can read the alphabet. Make sure you can say basic travel expressions. I'm sure if you just Google Korean travel expressions, you'll find several videos of people who've already made like general sentences that you can use, like please, thank you, excuse me. Mostly though, if you're going there for your first time and you only have like a month to prepare or something, it's too late to learn any sort of usable Korean before. I would just focus on some expressions and then ask them in English, whatever you need. Just speak it slowly and clearly because it would be too short to learn the language enough for that. So I wouldn't really worry about it. Instead, I would focus on things like, you know, just get some basic expressions, but focus mostly on the actual logistics of your trip. Like, where are you going to be staying? How are you going to be getting to your room? What should you pack? All of these types of things are going to be more important. And I'll say pack light. Lady Natbuck says, human bone broth with a thinking emoji. Eve Lafitte says, will that book have audio files? Yes, it'll have audio files. I haven't decided if all of the sentences will have audio files or if only some of them will come with audio files though yet. The reason why is because when the course is finished, it's going to have about 2,000 example sentences, which is too much to commission for audio files. I don't have that kind of money for a course that is going to be free. The book will cost money, but that's only because of, you know, printing and everything. But the course, it's a free course. It's supposed to be a free course. You get the same stuff in the book as you do in the video course. So you don't have to buy the book. The book will have, I think, some extra examples sentences in it. But anyway, I think it's going to be like most of them anyway. So at least close to like 800 to maybe 1,000 example sentences. There will be a lot. But the focus is not on the example sentences. The focus of the course is on the sentence connectors. Kai asks, have you made decent or what you consider worth it amounts of money from your books? One year I did. The first year after COVID, I made over 100,000 from books, YouTube, Patreon. I was doing private tutoring, donations, like everything put together. I made over $100,000. Like that was, I think 2020 or 2021. I can't remember. It was one of those years. That was it. That was the only year I ever had. And the reason for that, it was mostly in the month of April, May, and June. Because, of course, what else was there to do? Everything was shut down, right? You all remember the first few months of COVID, that everything's horrible. You can't do anything. The entire world just shuts down. But actually, I shouldn't say entire world. Korea didn't shut down. The US shut down. It was terrible. So everyone in the US was like, well, what do I do now? Can't go to work. Might as well learn Korean. So a lot of people went online and searched learn Korean. They found my channel. They found my books. They bought my books. And that month was really good. So that year was over $100,000 for earnings. If I had that every year, I would not release any paid content at all. I would just make all my stuff free. But I don't. So I can't tell you exactly how much I make because it's not consistent. Some months it'll be a few thousand, other months it'll be less. And I'm like, and it adds up to be enough to pay for my rent and utilities and everything. But it's never been like I can go on vacations sort of money, if that answers your question. But I try not to make the channel though too focused on that sort of thing though, because at the end of the day, I do just want to help everyone learn Korean. I want to be able to make a living doing it, but I still would do it regardless of what my full-time job is. Let's see. Oh, and Sue Amazing asked a question. How do you say one day? You would say sometime, 언젠가. And someone else said that in chat, but 언젠가. You can say, oh, someday, 언젠가. Fenny VC says, learn 지하철역. Yeah, I would just download the Naver Maps app or Kakao Map. They have like a subway app where you can just check the stations. I would just do that. I wouldn't bother learning like the map and how it works. It's too complicated. Just learn how to use the map. Flo Purdy, thank you. Flo Purdy, thank you for the donation. And Flo writes, bottom of the hour donation. Thanks for everything you do for us. 감사합니다, Flo. Okay, let me check here. I'm scrolling up. A lot of comments. I'm trying to read them all. 나요, 세요 같은 표현들을 말씀해 줄 수 있나요? 나요 is not an expression. Are you talking about grammar? 나요 would be a verb ending as well as 세요. The board's a little late, but it still recognizes your donation. Marco says, I've heard bicycle theft is common in Korea. Yeah, it can be. What about motorcycle theft? I don't believe so, but I don't know anything about motorcycles because I've never ridden one before. I don't know anyone who owns one. You would have to ask a Korean who has a motorcycle if they know if that's a thing. Tony says, I slept through COVID. That sounds nice. I wish. Let's see. Nayo shows curiosity. It shows that you're curious to know the answer to something. And by doing that, by extension, it also makes the sentence sound more soft. And by doing that, making it softer because it's like, hey, I'm really curious. It makes it softer and sound a little more polite. The nayo ending. But it's not like specifically a polite version. It's not like it's separately polite because of the ending. The ending is just yo. It's just standard yo form, which is informal. The reason it's polite is just because of that feeling it gives to the sentence. Kai says, you can rest assured if I hit the lottery or have a long lost relative who gives me crazy money, I'll fund your channel. Thank you. I appreciate that more than you know. Someday there will be one of my subscribers that makes it rich on a meme coin and they're going to be like, Billy, this is for you. And they'll send me like $10 zillion. I'll be like, thank you. Yes, that'll be a nice day. Tony says, I'm going to contact my Nigerian prince. Oh, did you get an email from that guy? I think I did too. He sent me a few emails as well. I should have read them. I just deleted them. I think he said he also had a few $1 million to give me. I'm just reading your chat messages really quick. Luke says, I never understood the true meaning of olnese. Sei is short for just sai. Sai is used for a period of time. So one time. Let me get you a better translation of that. So literally, sai is. Let's write it up. This is not the word for bird. This is the word sai, which means it has actually a bunch of meanings. It can mean like a relationship between, like, 우리 사이 안 좋아, like we don't have a good relationship. We're not good with each other right now. It can also mean between, like 건물 사이에 서 있어요, like they're standing in between the building, like the period between two things. But this can also mean like the period between two actions, like while, that sort of meaning. So let me add that. So 어느 is a certain, but you can also think of it as a, like 어느 날, or one day, a day, like one day, 어느 날, a certain day, one day, like when you're telling a story. In this case, a certain time, between a certain time literally is what you get, but more naturally, you're just going to translate this as like suddenly, or like before you know it, in that sort of meaning. But literally it's like a certain while, for at a certain time. But if you search olnese in Naver, it's just going to also give you the literal translation of actually any word. If you're ever curious about like, what does this one word mean? Just go in Naver Dictionary. It'll tell you what it means and everything. But that's the way it means that. If I make it out of this basement and can own Adobe, I'll let you know. Thank you, Kai. I'm rooting for you. I'm not going to call the police to get you any help, but I'm really rooting for you. You can do it. Just believe in yourself. Evil P says, and then you'll retire and stop teaching us. No, I will not do that. I promise. You'll still see me whether you like it or not until I'm really old. Yeah, if I someday I can't make enough money from teaching Korean to pay the bills, I will still not shut down this channel. What I would probably have to do is just update it less often. Like I wouldn't be able to make any free courses. I wouldn't be able to do like weekly live streams. I wouldn't be able to make videos in Korea, but I would still keep what I have open, and then every once in a while I would do new content for it. So I wouldn't shut it down, even worst scenario, but yeah. Try not to think about that though. Leli says, why when I listen to something in Korean, I know the meaning of the sentence, but I can't understand, right? I have to think? Yes, you have to think. You have to think. I'm not sure quite what you're asking, but if this is what you're asking, you do have to think for Korean. Leli says, can you make a video about Korean handwriting? I have. Check my channel for a video called Stroke Order in my Korean FAQ series. If I fund him, I'll make sure. Is that a threat? You'll put me in the Adobe dungeon and you'll give me a camcorder and you'll be like, Billy, you have to make at least 4 videos per month and do a live stream every week if you want to get the bone broth, the human bone broth, and the garlic breadsticks. Meanwhile, you'll be sitting at the table with Jeremy eating like steak and throwing like the fat, the burned fat into a big you know, a big tub that gets dumped down to like a trench that goes straight into the dungeon. I'll come out of the dark like Smeagol and that's precious. I'll like eat all the food that you give me. Relax, the bone broth serves me to. Okay, so Kai's got a goal. Nina says, question, how to say it's my sleep time? So, really easy. You use the, actually, I won't write it with this because it's kind of hard to read what that is. You use the future tense form of a verb, which will end in lir or if it ends in a consonant. So like hada would become har, 먹다 would become 먹을, anything like that. So you use that form followed by a noun. Sorry. If you're asking time to, I'll just give you the noun. You can use this with other nouns too, but when you're talking about time to do something, you say 이다, it is. So 이에요, 이야, 입니다, anything like that. 이라고 생각해요, I think it is. 인 것 같아요, I think it is. 시간 is time to do something. So like 하다, 할 시간이에요. It is time to do. 숙제할 시간이요. 공부할 시간이요. It's time to study. 가다, to go. 갈 시간이야. It's time to go. 자다, to sleep. Oh no, I got marker all over my hand. 자다, to sleep, would become 잘 시간이다. 잘 시간. Time to sleep. 잘 시간이에요. It is time to sleep. 지금 잘 시간이야. It's time to sleep now. So that's how you do it. Time to do something. Literally, it means it is the time when you will do something, since it's the future or the would form. Per legal, I cannot confirm or deny my intentions. Avery, welcome. Jihoon says A is more wide lips. No, it's the opposite. A is the rounder. A is the wide lips version. Lady Natbook said, Kai will use Adobe to hunt Billy down, like Electric State movie. All the resources at Adobe's fingertips. That's when you download the Adobe Bounty Hunter software. You gotta subscribe to the Adobe Cloud to get access to it, but it's one of the programs in there, Adobe Bounty. And it lets you GPS track people and track rewards, all that stuff. You can send the Adobe mercenaries for an additional fee. Danny says, I think there's no difference while pronouncing A and A. There is not anymore. However, that does not mean there is never a difference. Actually, I don't even need just like that. Yeah, sure, I'll do it. If you want to know how these sounds used to be different, nowadays they're the same. So you can say them both the same way. But traditionally, and up until about 2 decades ago, they were still taught this way. Traditionally, they used to be different. If you want to know how to make your mouth shaped for A versus A, this one has the wider lips, A. The reason is this one comes from ah. So say ah, and look how wide your mouth is, but then with that same mouth shape, ah, say A. And now you have A. For this one comes from all. It actually does come from that because it's a diphthong originally. So say all. All. Look at your mouth. All. It's not all, it's all. Ah, all. So if you make your lips shaped like all and you say A, you get this one. A. They're very little, slightly different. Nowadays, it doesn't matter. You can just say A or A. No one's going to care. But traditionally, they were slightly different. So there are words where it actually matters. This means my, and this means your. The reason is, remember I said that A comes from this sound, ah. Well, this na, e, is ne. This is the apostrophe S meaning, right? So nae is mine, right? Nae, check, my book. Nae ta, my car. Or you can say ne ta, na e ta, nae, ne. So this one's ne. This one though, no, e, your. Originally, no, oh, ne, ne. Now I'm not doing this perfectly because it's not a used difference anymore, but I'm trying to, I'm doing it exaggerated so you can see how that there's a small difference. Ne, ne, ne. Nowadays it doesn't matter, but originally there was a difference. So now if you see these, ne, ne, they're the same. You can say them the exact same way. So what ended up happening is that a dialect version of this is ni. A dialect version of no is ni. So you'll hear ni, it's especially in like Gyeongsang dialect, like Busan area, anywhere around there. So they started using this as a better version of this because it's, you can easily hear ne, ni. So you'll hear people just say this as ni. You do not write it though as ni. It is only, sorry, you do not, you don't write it as ni. You say it as that. But when you write it, you're still supposed to write the original way like this. But that's where it comes from. That's why these words look exactly the same. I mean, they sound exactly the same. You might think, why did they make them the same? How are you going to ever tell the difference? Because originally they were not the same. But if anyone tells you, you have to pronounce them differently or they're slightly different, it's not true. Someone who's like in their 60s or 70s probably would still know the difference because, like I said, it used to be the original way of saying them, but it's no longer necessary to speak or understand Korean. They'll understand you whether you do it or not, and you're going to understand them whether they're doing it or not. Adobe Execute. Orion, yes, that's the name of the product. that's what the .exe at the end of the file is for. Adobe Execute Plus includes observance and light mayhem. Adobe Execute Pro includes special request and full chaos in beta testing right now. That sounds horrible. Avery says, do you have any advice for learning vocabulary well long term? No, because it's the same as in English. If you're trying to learn English, if you're studying for a test of English words that are not commonly used, you cannot, by definition, maintain them for a long time unless you're constantly hearing them every now and again. So you can kind of make up for it by doing spaced repetition studying, like something like Anki for studying vocab. But even when you do Anki, you're still going to forget the word. You're still going to mess up words. So the only way is you're going to have to keep using it. You're going to have to keep getting exposed to it. Now, commonly used words, you're not going to have this problem because you're going to constantly hear them and you're going to see them and write them yourself. The less commonly used words are the ones that you could have issues with. And the only way to get over that would be to severely increase the amount of listening practice you're getting to Korean so you can constantly be exposed to them again and again and again so you don't forget. And also practicing other common words so you at least you can remember the common words, the basic words, and not forget those. Then it's only an issue of forgetting some complicated words, which you can talk your way around and not worrying about forgetting like basic words like tree or apple or something. Jihoon, check Naver Dictionary because they actually answer that. There are two ways to say the OE vowel. I've actually made a video about it. I actually made a video exactly about that very word, yarse. And I talk about how that diphthong has two pronunciations. Ue and ue. And they're both used, even today. Fanny of Easy says, do you think people from North Korea say it differently? Oh, you're talking about the A and A sound? I don't know. I know North Korean does a lot of dumb stuff though, so they might do it differently. They have some things that they like to do differently just for the sake of being different, not because it's better or more easy to say or anything like that, but just to be different. So I don't know. Maybe. I'm not going to go there to find out. Kai says, I tried finding a Korean podcast or content on YouTube, but it keeps bringing up Rotten Mango's channel. So podcasts you won't find on YouTube. If you're looking for a podcast, you have to go to like Naver Audio Clip or Patbang. But I think Naver Audio Clip would have more stuff nowadays. So just type Naver Audio Clip and there's a website for podcasts. It has like so much stuff. It's really good. For YouTubers though, you would want a specific type of content. So like if you're interested in whatever your hobby is, right? People doing tutorials for Adobe products or something like that. Or, how to survive if you're locked in Adobe's dungeon. That type of video, you search the specific topic and then you would watch YouTubers that do content on that topic until you find someone that you like. But there isn't really a shortcut for that. There's no like one service that recommends different YouTubers for learning languages. It really just depends what type of content you like looking at. Does Jeremy like making videos? Yes, he does. He asks me to make videos with him. He wants to start a YouTube channel for himself also, but when we ask him what kind of YouTube content do you want to make, he's like, I want to make Minecraft tutorials. And I'm like, Minecraft tutorials. And I'm thinking like, are people going to watch that? So we're kind of trying to help him start a channel, but we're not really sure what he would do because I think that would actually be hard to make. We would have to get like screen recording equipment for his Switch and then have him do narration for it separately. So because of how much work that sort of content would be, I don't think we're going to do that. It would require me also to use a lot of my time to do a separate YouTube channel. So we're trying to think of what's a topic that he can do that's simple enough that his mom could help him with editing and making the video and, promoting it and everything. That wouldn't take too much of my time, but I can maybe help him with the filming side and the planning side. So yeah, but he does like making videos. Yes, those would be very helpful right now. And in Korean. Sue Amazing asks, how can we get exposure to specific words? So you're talking about like advanced vocabulary. Here's the thing. How would you first learn about that word? Where did you see that word in the first place? That is the big issue because some people who are learning Korean grab words from other people and just put them directly into their vocabulary deck. Like maybe you grab words from my vocabulary deck and you just add them into your vocab list without checking, is this a word that I should learn? Or is this a word that I've seen before? Or you don't want to, and the same with like people who use frequency lists. Like frequency lists are good for checking your understanding. They're not where you want to pull your words from. So if you saw the word used in the first place, that is where you study the word being used. If you see a word used once and only once, and you never see it used again, don't worry about that word when it comes up in your vocab review. But ideally, you should be getting vocabulary words from actual sources and not from like looking at a list of, or just seeing it randomly here and there. You want to get words that are actually being used. So I think it's better to learn them from words you're actually seeing people use, like watching from YouTube videos, seeing the person actually use this word in a sentence. Then it's going to be a word that's going to come up more often versus if you're just finding the word randomly from like a newspaper article, even if it's a real word, it might be a really uncommon or rare word. So you have to kind of decide for yourself, is this a word that I actually need? Jeremy Go Minecraft. Learn Minecraft with Go Jeremy Minecraft. I'm sure he would not like that idea. We tried to suggest some nice channel ideas for him and concepts for his channel. Like, what if you do it like this? And then the framing of the channel is like, you are this. And he's like, I don't like that. I want to do it like, I want to call my Minecraft channel like Sniffer Elevator Explosion or something like that. Like, okay, so. He could play Minecraft while chatting about the game in Korean. Yeah, we told him that also. Like, if you do a channel, you could do it in Korean also. But I think it's hard for him to do the, that sort of like, what do you call it? Like narrating a channel, like narrating what he's doing in English or Korean. I don't know if he'd be able to stay focused enough to like, to guide the listener through what he's doing in every moment in order to do that kind of video. Yeah, someone mentioned Taeung-sem. Yeah, I've recommended him before. I did a podcast recommendation video, and I actually didn't mention his comprehensible input channel. I recommended he has like a podcast channel, which I recommend since it's podcast recommendations. But yeah, same person does both channels. YouTube keeps crashing on me. Jeremy's first video, POV, your dad runs a Korean channel, but only because of his magic hat. So in that video, Jeremy can say, he actually doesn't even speak any Korean, but he steals my hat and he puts it on. He starts speaking in Korean. And I don't know what he's saying. Oh, Gluxius, as if I'm saying your name right, asks about the patja ending. So you're actually talking about patja. I've done a couple videos about that before. This is the form, patja, and you use it after a conjugated verb. I'm just going to write conjugated action verb. So like hada would become, actually it doesn't have to be action, just any verb. It can be a description verb. So like hada would become he, right? That's it. It's not het or any other form. It's just the standard version. He bat자. And it's used to imply that regardless of whether you do something or regardless of something is or not, is what it means, is regardless. Or you can think of it as like even if, but it's meant to imply not just like, oh, even if I were to go there, and it's used to imply like that, like it wouldn't be worth it. It's not going to work out, or it doesn't matter, anything like that. It's not like, sorry, it's like a dot of something on my board from the marker. Right, so it's used to mean like something regardless of something, like it's not going to work out, or even if you do something, something bad will happen, or it's not going to be what you want, like that sort of meaning, patja. So that's the form. And I've done full lessons about it. There's a little more to it, but that's the main point of it. And I have some other lessons on my channel. So if you search patja, you'll see I've done a Learn Korean episode about it. I think I've also done a live stream about it too. Sutak. Yeah, Cosma. I watched Sutak during COVID. I watched every single one of his videos over a course of 2 years from the very beginning in full, every single one. And then I realized I have seen enough Sutak. I've memorized all of his expressions. I know how he talks, and I wasn't learning anything else from him. So I stopped, but I never disliked him. I like him. I just stopped learning new things from him. So I stopped watching him. But yeah, that's a good channel as well. 자, 이번에 할 게임은, and he always had these expressions. He also had a lot of expressions that he would use that are not regular Korean expressions. So you have to be careful that if you don't copy everything he says, because he would use his own made up expressions a lot. There's like a whole Wikipedia page of his made up expressions he would use. Boom, 200 million views. Yes. 따뜻한 목소리 Hyunjun is a good channel for advanced or intermediate. He's storyteller for sleep. Oh, okay. I hadn't heard of that guy. Nina, the verb, you use the verb, not Tom. Tom is a noun. You could say 잠을 잘 시간, but you have to use the verb before 시간. In this case, 자다 is a verb. Tom is not a verb. Tom would just be a noun. Another Sue Amazing also says they watch Sutak's channel. That's nice. Jeremy's channel name. Yeah, it'll be Minecraft with Go Jeremy. Okay. I'm only gonna stream for like a couple more minutes and then we're gonna stop for today. Surprisingly, we finished this in just an hour. So we had a full hour to just chat, which normally we don't get. So maybe just one more question and then I'll sign off for today. Yeah, if anyone has any recommendations for YouTubers that they like watching for practicing Korean listening, leave them in the chat for other people also. That'll be really useful. That way we can all get some good recommendations. I also am looking for recommendations. I'm really picky though, because I don't watch YouTube very much. The only YouTubers I consistently watch are like, I have like 2 that are not tutorials. All the rest of them are tutorials, like camera tutorials, lighting tutorials, audio tutorials. Like that type of stuff is what I watch to get better at making videos. But I don't watch too many YouTubers that are just entertainment content. And especially that are Korean YouTubers that make entertainment content. So I'm also looking for recommendations. Kai asks, are 잘 부탁드립니다 and 처음 뵙겠습니다 common? The first one, yes. 잘 부탁하다 is commonly used. 잘 부탁드려요. 잘 부탁드립니다. It is common. 처음 뵙겠습니다 is an old-fashioned expression for nice to meet you. It sounds extra formal. So if you're meeting someone who's, I'd say like over 60 and you want to impress them with your Korean and you meet them for the first time, 처음 뵙겠습니다 could sound a little bit more polite than 만나서 반갑습니다. But you can also not use it. You don't have to. But it's an older expression. There are a few older expressions like that you might find. 처음 뵙겠습니다 is an older one. Another one is like 천만에요 for you're welcome. It's also an older expression. If you ask someone who's older than 60, they'll tell you it sounds natural because it's an older expression, but nowadays it would sound really awkward to say. You like Jeremy Go Minecraft. Okay, I'll tell him. Jeremy Go Minecraft. 아시다시피 오늘도 감사합니다. As you know. 궁서체. That's the really fancy font, like the cursive font kind of. Have I heard about that expression? Like 진지해? If you say it, it makes sense. No, I haven't heard it. Is that like some new slang word that kids are using these days? Has it been around for a while is what I'd be more curious about. There is a lot, Korea has a lot of slang that comes and goes. I usually don't care about most of it, but if it sticks, then I like it. Then I'll learn it, is what I mean. I'll teach it if it's something that's been around for a while, but I'm cautious about new slang if it's something like brand new, because most slang that gets introduced in Korea doesn't catch on. So there's like there's not really any benefit to learning the newest slang, because you might learn it and use it and then the next year sounds really weird. Like it's only useful while it's being popularized, while people are trying to popularize it. And most of it doesn't stick. So I'm not sure if that's one of those or if this has been around longer and I just didn't know it. But to me, it sounds like you're being really fancy. You're being too strict is kind of what it seems like, because that's like a cursive basic font in Korean. I like Kajin podcast. I think I recommended them as well in my podcast video. Yeah, I did recommend them. Do you have a video of umsumte? Umsumte. Can you give me an example? I'm guessing this is another another thing like that. Let me check to see if I can figure it out myself. Are you talking about like if I search it in the dictionary, it only shows for 제주도? 주로 온라인상에서 글을 쓸 때 명사형 어미인 음이나 yeah. I do. So you're just talking about that ending. That's an old ending. That's used in like online slang and it's childish sounding. But I have made a video about that. It's mentioned in my Korean Made Simple book. If you use the regular ending at like the or whatever, ending at the end of a verb, it's a very quick way to end your sentences that sounds like you didn't care enough to conjugate it, and it sounds like teenager slang. No matter your age, it sounds like teenager slang. So it's okay to learn it, but I wouldn't recommend using it just because it would sound really immature online. 급식체. Yeah. I've also mentioned 급식체 before. That's also like kids slang. It's like shortened words and stuff. But it's been around for a very long time. That sort of thing. Christina asks, when you want to ask a question in Korean, ga goes at the end, right? Okay. Let me answer your question. With my beginner course. So, no. Because that's one way of asking questions. But I'll send you my free course. You can click there, start learning. It has an answer to your question, because in order to answer your question, I would actually have to teach a lot of stuff around it that I think you probably haven't learned yet. So you'll probably benefit from that course. Yeah. Like opsum, that sort of thing. Okay, I think we're good for today. I'll stop here. Let's close all this. Everyone, thank you for coming. Thank you to our sponsors for today. It looks like Slob. If I just read here. Slob O Guitar. Kai, of course. Flo Purdy, of course, as well. Alita Baker, thank you all for your support. We didn't hit our $500 donation goal for Jeremy to throw a pie into my face. So disappointed. I was really thinking we would hit that today, but alas, we'll try again next time. Thank you everyone for coming, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐. Oh no!